Woo! Should put on my Spurs glasses after that win last night. Woo! Here we go.
This is the Chris
Duel. Mute for our evil Facebook overlords. Hector Gomez. What is up, Hector Gomez?
Now, Chris Duel.
It's just another manic Monday. Wish it was Sunday. That's
It is a manic Monday. It is a madness Monday with March Madness. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, and the hardest working man in radio, Jeremy Kolok, who, like me, went late into the night last night on the San Antonio Spurs broadcast with the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. And interestingly, all three of us, Bill Schoening, Jeremy Kolok, and I will be on the radio show today with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney on a day which is really cool for Bill Schoening, and he's going to join us at 8:05 as his book drops today. It is published today. I pre-ordered it on Kindle, and it's on my Kindle this morning when I wake up, which is so cool. Lots and lots and lots to talk about this morning, including March Madness. Not so good for the Texas Longhorns men's basketball team. Major League Baseball free agency, not so good for the Houston Astros. Carlos Correa signs with the Minnesota Twins. But last night, those San Antonio Spurs get a heart-stopping, gritty, exciting, needed, much needed win last night on the road at Golden State against the Golden State Warriors. Just some of the stories we'll be talking about this morning on this Manic Monday, on this Madness Monday. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, was it rainy for you on the way into work this morning? It was rainy for me on the way in here in San Antonio.
Yeah, it was super rainy. I think that's the way it'll continue to be all day. And it is the week of Dell Match Play. And for as many cones and signs as there were this week or the end of last week, there's so much more today, and mixed with the rain, I was like, am I even going to be able to like get to work? And I had to go around to a different entrance, and I just saw an email about if you don't have the special tag by midweek, they're going to tow your car in the middle of the day, because I guess our parking lot is up for they're offering people to pay to park there. And as someone who works here, I'd prefer not to. So exciting stuff going on around here, but yes, it is not going to be a pretty day after such a beautiful weekend, Chris. It was amazing this past weekend. That's the weather I'm talking about right there.
Well, speaking of the weather, and I need to check this again, I saw during the Spurs game last night, I saw a National Weather Service computer model that said a chance of tornadoes in central Texas today between like 3 and 6 p.m. I'll try to track that down, see if that's been updated. I'm sure it has been since last night. But the highest probability was up and down the I-35 corridor between New Braunfels and Waco. So certainly that would include Austin. And that was last night. That could move north, south, east, or west, or not happen at all. So bottom line with this bizarre weather today for the first full day of spring. Spring actually hit us at 10:33 a.m. yesterday. So this is the first full day of spring. Be very, very vigilant today, wherever you might be in the great state of Texas, because the weather is just generally going to be funky. Let me check in with Jeremy Kolok, who last night on the Spurs broadcast engineered it from beginning to end. Jeremy, you walked out of here at about 11 o'clock last night, and here we are first thing in the morning, bright and early. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, Chris. I like to always say that successfully completing a Spurs broadcast always feels like I just did successful open heart surgery. It's a little how it feels like. So, I'm a little relieved this morning. And how could you not be relieved with the way that game turned out?
Well, and you said that to me before the broadcast. I said, hey, man, good to have you, Jeremy. We'll both be here first thing in the morning as well. Not a lot of sleep coming for either of us. And then you said to me, well, but hopefully we'll be celebrating a Spurs victory tomorrow morning. And indeed we are. Spurs beat the Golden State Warriors in exciting fashion at the end, 110-108. Keldon Johnson with a rebound of a Jakob Poeltl missed free throw and a putback follow shot to give the Spurs the lead, 110-108 with 0.3 of a second left to play. And then the Golden State Warriors unable to score with such little time on the clock. So not only do the Spurs get the win, they get it on a night the New Orleans Pelicans won on the road in Atlanta. So the Spurs could not fall behind 3.5 games to the Pelicans with just 9 to play. They needed that win badly. They win at Golden State for the second time this season, which is remarkable. And oh, by the way, now the Lakers have fallen into the 10 slot. They're in a virtual tie with the New Orleans Pelicans. But Pelicans currently win that tiebreaker over the Lakers. So now the Spurs can target both the Pelicans and the Lakers for that 10 slot, or you really want to be optimistic, could maybe even get the 9 slot if they can win a bunch of games here down the stretch. Regular season ends on April 10th. So big win for the Spurs. They have the Portland Trailblazers late night on Wednesday night. So Shannon, very, very cool last night. Spurs led for much of the game. They kind of let it get away in the fourth quarter. And yet what I love to see against a very good Golden State team that had Klay Thompson, Draymond Green was actually ejected from the game in the third quarter because he's a knucklehead. But no Steph Curry. But you know what? Spurs have been undermanned throughout much of this season as well. So we'll take it. Big win for the Spurs last night.
Yeah. And you got to take one game at a time. I know that's so cliche and you can only play who's in front of you. So can't worry too much about what the Pelicans are doing. Just got to handle your business. They certainly did. And I fear, Chris, that because the game was so late that a lot of people miss the end of it, right? They missed the tail end and that shot from Keldon, and our lovely and very talented and on the spot producer Jeremy has pulled that clip for us. So let's hear it now. Let's bring the feels back from that win last night.
Woo!
Taking his time. The veteran from Austria on the way. No, off the back of the rim. Rebound. Johnson follow. Good. Keldon Johnson with the offensive rebound and the putback with 0.3 of a second left. The Spurs take a 2-point lead. It is 110-108. Keldon Johnson with a huge play. Timeout, Steve Kerr. Only 0.3 of a second left.
Bill Schoening doing what he does best, calling the Spurs game magnificently. Shannon, you could hear the excitement in Bill's voice. And again, I'm a Spurs fan. Shannon, as you know, I'm a Spurs homer. I always believe the Spurs can win. I always believe we're going to go to the postseason and we're going to go deep and make noise. But this one had the feel of the Spurs letting this one get away from them. So the excitement in Bill Schoening's voice there, I think all Spurs fans shared who were either listening on the radio or watching on TV last night as Keldon Johnson hit that game winner.
Yeah, and I think again, this is one of those games that's if someone told you, "Hey, look, it's going to be no-brainer, but you will beat the Warriors at some point this season," you're going to take it, and you'll take it any way you can get it. And what a great little clip there, and audio from one Mr. Bill Schoening again on his big day. I'm hoping he got enough rest because I feel like he's going to be interviewed quite a bit today, starting with us this morning at 8:00.
He's very gracious. I mean, we get the first interview as his book drops today, which is cool. And I got the book in front of me here. It is Stories, Sports, and Songs, and it's everything Bill Schoening. And you look through this book, Shannon, and clearly, I mean, we knew this anyway, but it really hits you when you flip through the book. He's got so many stories to tell. Not only from his Spurs days, which there's a million stories. He's traveled the world with the Spurs. He's been there for so many Spurs championships. He was there for every dribble of Manu Ginobili's career and most of the Tim Duncan era as well. And he just, it goes all the way back to his childhood in Philadelphia. He's led a very colorful, very fascinating life, and it continues. And, you just heard a little bit more of it last night, doing what he does best, calling the Spurs game. And he does it with such passion. And Shannon, you and Jeremy and I, as radio people, we know that play-by-play isn't easy. It doesn't come effortlessly. You've got to be very good at it to be very good at it. Bill Schoening makes it seem effortless, and yet communicates it with such enthusiasm, with such passion, with such talent. He's so good at what he does. The more I've been working with him on the Spurs broadcast now since 2012. So it's been 10 years now. And again, as a radio guy, I just listen to him, and I'm watching what he's watching on the TV monitor. And I'm going, my gosh, he is so smooth. He is so talented. He is so compelling and entertaining. He's very, very special. And it's great that, he's a friend of ours. He's a friend of the show. And 8:05 this morning as his book drops, and has dropped already on Amazon and other places where you buy books. Going to be fun to talk with him on such a big day.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I know we talked to him leading up in the past couple of weeks, but do you think maybe he can read an excerpt to us? I know he's going to have an audiobook, but I just feel like I feel like a little kid who's coming in on that meet the author day, right? And you just all sit around and you just listen to them speak the words that they've written down. I'm excited to talk to him today and see if he feels any different. I mean, he's been around for all of the big games in basketball, right? And the Spurs, and doing what he does day in and day out. This has to be a different feeling for him, but hopefully just as exciting.
Yeah, I've heard authors say, getting a book published is like giving birth. And of course, Bill's a man. He doesn't know what it's like to give birth. So maybe women who have given birth will say, dude, you have no idea what it's like to give birth. And it's nothing like that. But speaking of what you request, and we'll look for this, Jeremy, in the parking lot last night, there will be an audio book that is not released yet. Bill said in the parking lot after the Spurs game last night, he was going to try to send Jeremy over an audio clip. So you'll hear him, read, we think, a moment of the audio from that book. So hopefully he'll be sending that over this morning. Once again, Bill Schoening going to join us at 8:05 this morning. Now, Shannon, so much to talk about. Not all of it happy. We'll get into what Carlos Correa decided to do, and that sign with the Minnesota Twins. Even Jose Altuve, his good friend and teammate, said he was shocked by what Carlos Correa did over the weekend. But last night, and I was reporting on the score to Bill Schoening during the Spurs game, Shannon, as you are well aware, it did not finish well for the Texas Longhorns. They trailed at the half to Purdue 36-30. They would take the lead in the second half, but in the end, Purdue pulls away and wins it by 10, 81-71, to eliminate the Texas Longhorns from the East region of the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship. Your reaction to what the Longhorns were unable to accomplish last night?
Yeah, I think that first round where they ultimately got the win, the first tournament win for the Texas Longhorns since 2014. I mean, that was box number one. You were really hoping that with the Chris Beard-led team and that experience that he brings, coaching in the tournament specifically, that they'd be able to sneak by number 3 Purdue. It's weird looking at the stat lines here. Not a great shooting night for Texas, just 39% to Purdue's 48. But what's almost staggering is looking at the fouls. Texas committed 29 fouls, which ultimately sent the Boilermakers to the line 46 times compared to the 12 times Texas ended up going to the line. And when you're shooting 71% from the free throw line and you're getting there that many times, I mean, that, just add that to the score, it all adds up eventually. So not the performance I think a lot of fans wanted out of the University of Texas, especially now with Texas Tech heading to the Sweet 16, right? Texas Tech ultimately gets bragging rights in year one post the Chris Beard era. But definitely I think, as Texas fans, we can't. It's like football. You've been to the mountaintop, right? You've been to the Sweet 16 before. You know what that feeling is like. You crave it once more. But after the years we had with Shaka Smart, failing to make the tournament, making the tournament, not getting a win in the tournament, you got to take it 1 year at a time. And so I think you have to walk away feeling like overall it was a good season for this program.
Yeah, that statistic, Shannon, that you mentioned, 46 trips to the line for Purdue, 12 for Texas. I mean, right there. If you don't send them as much to the line, or if you can even get to the line relatively an even amount as Purdue, a 10-point deficit at the end, you lose by, you have an excellent chance to win that game if that statistic was not so wildly lopsided. So much to talk about this morning. Also, regarding that Carlos Correa story, he signs with the Minnesota Twins. Our baseball savant and go-to guy, Scott MANDZIARA, a St. Louis broadcaster, former voice of the University of the Incarnate Word Cardinals in San Antonio. We'll talk Carlos Correa. We'll talk baseball. We'll also talk NCAA tournament and more with Scott MANDZIARA. And also, Scott's a big LSU fan. Lael Collins, the Dallas Cowboys offensive lineman. Joe Burrow, another LSU Tiger, over the weekend had Lael Collins over for dinner. Apparently it worked, as he is now a Cincinnati Bengal. We'll get into that, and we'll probably bring that up with Scott as well. Lots to cover all morning long. You are invited to join us. Phone lines always open to you at 800-707-9760. Our instant talkback feature always open to you on the free iHeartRadio app via Ticket 760 and AM 1300 The Zone. 8 o'clock hour, your chance to win a 4-pack to the Valero Texas Open. That's going to be very, very cool. We'll get that. We'll tell you all about that as we get closer. Shannon's Salty Shakedown, Sports History, Sports Birthdays, and as we mentioned, publishing his book today, Bill Schoening. How cool is that? Jeremy Kolok, the hardest working man in radio, making the show go. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. We are with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Manic Monday. It's the Chris Duel Show. Yeah, Tracy, we are absolutely going to talk Carlos Correa with Scott MANDZIARA. Let's see here. All right, let's see. I'm going to go get some coffee, but let us say hello to Hector Gomez, Sam Tobias, Steve Duraco, the original Rock, Jesse Bratton, Anthony Del Toro, Beth Settle. You were here out of the gate pretty much. Good morning, Beth. Sam Tobias, Tracy Bogert, Luisa Alanis, Ralph Balderas, Lucinda Sullivan, Jason Garcia with rest in peace to John Clayton. We got to talk about the passing of John Clayton. From Tokyo, Robert Browning. Yeah, Robert, it's a sleep deprivation day for me and Jeremy and Bill Schoening, John Williams, Sam Tobias, welcome in, everybody. Wow, look at that, Sam. You know, most years, as you know, those perfect brackets last longer. So that's interesting. Okay. I need coffee. And I need the Wi-Fi code. I've got Kindle on my phone, so I've got Bill's book on Kindle on my phone, but I brought in my Kindle, my actual Kindle, and I want to download Bill's book, which I pre-ordered on Kindle, on my Kindle. So there's a Wi-Fi code I need for the building that is locked into a lot of my devices, but it's not on my Kindle. All right, I'll be back in a sec. Give you some Jeremy Kolok for your viewing pleasure. There he is. You know him, you love him. You can't get enough of him.
Unjunk your sleep-in mattress firm and wake up a better you. Shop Tempur-Pedic, the most highly recommended bed in America, and save $300 on select mattresses. Plus, get a $300 instant gift good for sleep accessories. We've got your perfect bed in stock for immediate delivery and with a low price guarantee. So you can rest assured you're getting the best price. Only at Mattress Firm, the #1 Tempur-Pedic retailer. Restrictions apply. See store at mattressfirm.com for details.
My leg was painful, red, and swollen just doing the CrossFit puzzle. I could have put off telling my doctor, but I didn't wait.
He told his doctor and found out his leg pain, swelling, and redness are deep vein thrombosis, a blood
Woo!
which could travel to the lungs and lead to a pulmonary
Woo!
which could cause chest pain or discomfort or difficulty breathing and to be deadly. If you have one or more,
Welcome in, Jill.
there's no time to wait. Contact your doctor.
Jill says hello. Jill, Jeremy says hello. All right, let me see if I can get my Kindle on the Wi-Fi here. Gabe Quintanilla, GQ. Gabe Quintanilla, one of the greatest guys ever. I'm a big fan. Longtime judge. I say this all the time because it's true. His nickname as a judge was and is Gabe the Hammer Quintanilla. So if I'm ever a defendant, I do not want my judge's nickname to be the Hammer. I'm just saying. Okay, let me see here. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Come on, Kindle. Be nice. Okay, now. Now. Yeah, I'm not doing so. I told you, Sam, that my first place standing on, come on now, on, there it is. I'm now downloading Bill Schoening's book onto my Kindle. 10%. Ready to open. Opening. And just like that, Bill Schoening's book is on my Kindle. Stories, Sports, and Songs. Tales and Tunes by a Play-by-Play Lifer. Now, my Kindle's black and white. I don't have the really expensive Kindle because I work in radio. But if you want to see what Bill's book looks like with a color cover, I had it here somewhere. Where is it? There it is. There's what Bill's book looks like. And Bill will join us. Okay, now what are you saying about... Robert from Tokyo says, Kindle is great and certainly convenient, but studies have shown that you retain 30 to 40% more by reading a real paper book. No, hey, Robert, I read those. I get both. I do this so I can take it with me everywhere. But I not only read real books, I highlight like a freak. I'm writing in the margins. I'm highlighting so that I can go back.
1-800-707-970.
I totally agree with you on that. Chris Duel Show. Moni. That's what Carlos Correa got. Yeah. Chris Duel Show. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. The sleepless in San Antonio, Jeremy Kolok, is your Soundscape Stylist. Shannon in Austin, as always, from the palatial, beautiful, and high-tech, state-of-the-art, brand-new studios of iHeart Austin, as we join forces to bring you this show. We are worldwide on the internet as well. Robert Browning joining us on the live video feed, which is cool. A couple of programming notes. I just downloaded Bill Schoening's book onto my Kindle. I mean, I had it. I pre-ordered it. I got Kindle on my phone, but I also have Kindle on my Kindle. So that I can quickly refer to it as we interview Bill about his new book, which drops today. I wanted to have it on my Kindle. Bill Schoening's new book. It's at Amazon or wherever you buy your books. If you want to go look at it, you can order paperback today or you can order Kindle. I just didn't want to wait for the paperback to be delivered. I wanted to be able to read it today. The book's title is Stories, Sports, and Songs, Tales and Tunes by a Play-by-Play Lifer. And Bill will join us just after 8 o'clock. That's also when we are going to do a giveaway for the Valero Texas Open, a 4-pack of tickets, which will be very, very cool. And you can also win a foursome round of golf. I'm not sure how that works. Do you know how is that like a separate? You don't know? Okay, because I don't know either. There's somehow, I think, and I don't know for sure, and you would think that promotions would spell this out better for us. God love them. They do a great job. But I think somehow there's a foursome round of golf involved. But what that might be and what that usually is, if you win the tickets, I think you qualify for that drawing. And I'll get that clarified soon enough. But we know that if you win today with the keyword just after 8 o'clock, you're going to win the 4 passes for the Valero Texas Open. And you're somehow going to be in the running for a foursome round of golf, which, oh my God, would be incredible at TPC San Antonio. All right. There's that. We mentioned Bill Schoening at 8:05. Scott MANDZIARA, baseball savant and all-around sports enthusiast and broadcaster, and a great guy and a great guest and a friend of the show. Scott MANDZIARA going to join us at 7:05. We'll talk Carlos Correa, Major League Baseball, NCAA tournament, and more with him. Shannon Salty Shakedown going to happen just after 7:30, along with sports history and sports birthdays. Listen in on the free iHeartRadio app. There's a way you can talk back to us instantly. Record your message with that red microphone button at the bottom of the screen, and we get your message instantly, and we tend to play that on the air, which is cool. So all of that and more, dial us up if you would like to jump on the phone lines with us at any time, 800-707-9760. But right now, we do it every morning at this time because we should, because we like to, because it's a good deal. It is the High Five Play of the Day, appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in the Austin area, and our resident High Five axe-wielding expert is one Shannon Salty Sweeney. Shannon, tell the people what they will discover if they step into a High Five.
Well, there's much to discover, especially if you've never been to a High Five before. Out there at Lakeway location, it's 2 stories, so you've got double-decker bowling with the upstairs being a little more swanky, a little bit more adult. It even shuts down and becomes 21 and over at times. They've got laser tag. They got arcades games out of the wazoo. I mean, they're constantly changing them up, too. So you can check out all of those VR station. And if you haven't had the chance to experience VR, it really is some amazing technology. I don't suggest the zombie game, though. That one's scary. It scared me. It was so lifelike, and I couldn't get my weapon to work, so I was dead very quickly on that one. But also great food, and specifically Monday night, burger night, $5 chef specialty burger, and some great drinks as well. And if you're looking to make plans for the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 next weekend, a great spot to check out those games. Chris, today's High Five goes to a global sports superstar. As we know and are aware, the goings-on in the Ukraine are still very much top of mind. And because it is such a world event and all eyes are on that part of the world, there's lots of sports crossover. And so we have one for you today, worthy of a high five to Mr. David Beckham. Now, a lot of people, I think, stateside don't realize just how big David Beckham is, right? They know the name. They probably saw the movie in the early 2000s, Bend It Like Beckham. He was, the poster child for soccer. Everyone loved him. He's He's dreamy to look at. He's married to Posh Spice of the Spice Girls. But he's got a huge following, sir. I don't think, again, these pro athletes from around the world, and specifically soccer stars, have giant followings that I think a lot of us stateside don't even realize. He's got 71.5 million followers on Instagram. Wow. Some of your favorite NBA stars, yeah, they have a couple million, but it's not 75.1 million from around the world. And what Mr. Beckham did yesterday, and we see a lot of celebrities do this at times, they lend their social media to a cause or to some, other people to let them share their message. And that's exactly what David Beckham did yesterday. If you were following his stories, they featured a prenatal anesthesiologist who was going around a clinic for mothers and pregnant women in Ukraine that are dealing with the conflict going on, but also dealing with, being pregnant, which in and of itself is a challenge. David Beckham, a huge person who has been huge with UNICEF since 2005, was urging followers through his social media to donate to charity. And before he kicked off the Instagram takeover, he sent out this message again to his 75 million followers. And for those that are on any social media, that one picture or one video, it doesn't necessarily hit all of your followers, but it will hit most of them. So this video already viewed 4 million times just on his platform. Of course, it's been taken and shared in many other ways and formats. But here it is, David Beckham yesterday announcing what he was doing on his social media.
Hi everyone, so I'm handing over my social media to Irina, the head of the Regional Perinatal Center in Kharkiv, Ukraine. There, she is working with pregnant mothers to help them give birth safely. Thanks to your donations, the oxygen generators they have received are helping newborns survive in appalling conditions. Head over to my stories to learn more about the amazing work that Irina and health workers like her are doing to save lives. Please continue to support these incredible people and charities like UNICEF in any way that you can. Together, we can really make a difference. Thank you.
Chris, it's huge of David Beckham to not only be such a strong proponent for UNICEF and these women and these families, but again, to allow someone to take over his 75 million followers to share their message, to get behind the scenes and to display what and why they need things like food and water, as well as those oxygen tanks he was talking about, because the conditions due to everything going on in Ukraine are it's not the best circumstances, especially for women in these positions. So a huge high five to David Beckham. And again, if you go over to his social media, you can find that video and more.
I love it. And Shannon, I'm not a huge soccer guy. I mean, I get it. I know David Beckham is the Michael Jordan of soccer. And as you mentioned, 71 million followers, which, as you said that number, I wonder who has the most followers. It's we'll have to find that out. Maybe it's Beckham. We'll have to find that out at some point. But now I'm a fan. Before it was like, yeah, he's a big deal and he's one of the biggest names in soccer. I get it. Good for him. I'm happy for him. Now that he's done the right thing, and we say it all the time, Shannon, use your platform for good. And we've all got a platform. I mean, your platform could be your family, your circle of friends, your coworkers, whoever your followers are on Facebook, on Twitter, on social media. Use your platform for good. David Beckham doing it. God love him. I'm a fan. I'm down with David Beckham. And the more I look at, and I do pay a lot of attention, Shannon, to what's going on in Ukraine, and it is god awful. These are people in a lot of ways, in most ways, like us. It's a Western democracy for the last 30 years. They have worked at similar jobs as all of us have. They watch TV shows. They watch Netflix. They've got social media. And bombs are raining down them. People are dying by the scores. Lives are destroyed, all because of the whims of Vladimir Putin, and it continues. So we can't live our lives as if this is not going on. I think it is a global village, and this is happening on the other side of the world to innocent men, women, and children. and in this case, women who are pregnant and trying to have babies. So, Shannon, that's just a tremendous story that you selected. I totally agree. David Beckham, way to go, man. I am officially, let's see, as of 6:49 a.m. on Monday, March 21st, 2022. I never before said I'm a David Beckham fan. I am now a David Beckham fan. Way to go, dude. I'm proud of him.
I can't believe you've never seen Bend It Like Beckham. That movie was such a huge part of my childhood. It was a soccer movie. Keira Knightley. This was pre Pirates of the Caribbean days for her, so I don't think she was as popular. But there was that movie, and then there's also a musical version which I saw in London. I'm not ashamed to say I saw a matinee version of that show. Not as good as the movie, but it exists.
All righty. Well, very, very cool. And obviously 71 million followers can't be wrong. Dude is a big deal. So that is very, very cool for him. Now, as we move from that, Shannon, I did see this morning and I looked it up, but I want to thank Sam Tobias for calling it to our attention. We do have a bracket extravaganza. And Shannon pointed out on Friday, I was in first place in the whole bracket. And I knew, and I said that was an illusion. That wasn't real because Kentucky had gotten punked, and I had Kentucky in the Final Four. So I had a whole lot of losses coming. I still have a whole lot of losses coming. But among the three of us, Shannon, Jeremy, and myself in our bracket challenge, and we'll pull it up here in a bit and give proper kudos to those who are in first place. But among the three of us, Shannon, you are tied for 7th place. I am tied for 15th place. And the man I thought among the three of us was going to be a force to be reckoned with, Jeremy Kolok, sir, you are in 37th place. What do you got yourself, Jeremy?
My Memphis Tigers tried real hard against Gonzaga. That one hurt me a lot. We're just enjoying it as a fan this year.
Now, I did not watch Gonzaga versus Memphis. I'm assuming you watched that game because it was a big deal for you. Did Drew Timme keep doing his ridiculous his bicep thing after he makes a shot?
See, Memphis was killing them in the first half, and then it come out of the second half, this dude, Drew Timme, scores like 12 unanswered points, it feels like. And of course, they're zooming in on him after every bucket.
Was he doing that again?
Yeah, he was doing that.
Ridiculous.
Hey man, he was on fire. I'll give him that. Maybe if there was ever a time where he deserved it.
Yeah.
Them boys are good.
Act like you've been there. David Robinson, Tim Duncan didn't need to flex their biceps after every basket they scored. So So Shannon, among the three of us, you are atop the pyramid. You're the master forecaster when it comes to March Madness among the three of us. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I don't know how long for this world I am in that position, given Auburn going out last night. They were part of my Final Four, and Baylor, I think I had them going to the Elite Eight, and their loss hurt me a little bit. I think that was the first game on Saturday morning, and that was rough. That was a tough one. But those Houston Cougars, though, they're proving me right so far. They have moved on to the Sweet 16.
You and Paul Alexander. Yeah, I was watching Paul on Radically Rational over the weekend. He's continuing to tout you and he like the Houston Cougars to win the whole tournament.
Yeah.
So very cool. Yeah. My champion Gonzaga is still alive. Jeremy, did you have Memphis winning it all? Who did you have winning it all?
No, I actually had Kansas winning it all, so that's a lie. But my other three Final Four teams have been sent home. So
Ooh. But if Kansas wins it all, you might jump ahead of Shannon and me. It could happen. So very, very cool. All right. Sam Tobias saying only one person in first place in our bracket, and that person's name is Pat Schmitz. So Pat Schmitz, congratulations for the moment, Pat Schmitz. We'll see if that lasts, but congratulations and thanks to everybody playing in our bracket. We're going to have a lot of fun with that as the tournament continues. As we roll forward, all right, Carlos Correa broke my heart, probably broke your heart as well. Scott MANDZIARA, our baseball savant and go-to guy. We'll talk Correa. We'll talk Major League Baseball. We'll talk NCAA March Madness as well. Scott MANDZIARA joins us next. Bill Schoening, voice of the Spurs a little bit later. Shannon Salty Shakedown coming up as well in the 7 o'clock hour. Don't go anywhere. It's the Chris Duel Show. Sam, I don't recognize any of those names from I think I've seen Cindy Harvey before participating, but I don't, maybe Joe Arriaga. But, I'm looking for names like Wes Perkins, Anthony Del Toro, Robert Browning, people who, Tracy Bogert. I'm looking for people who join us in here day in and day out. But, yeah, that's a great point, Anthony. He doesn't have biceps. So it's not like he's got guns. He doesn't. David Robinson had guns. Tim Duncan's guns were much more significant than Drew Timmy's. I don't get it. It's a little bit ridiculous if you ask me. Okay, Tracy Bogert sent me something. Oh, David Beckham. Yep. It was that story. Tracy, I know you leave us early, so you may not be here anymore. I think by 6:30, Tracy's at work. So Tracy typically joins us in the first half hour. Yeah, Wes, congratulations to your Texas Tech Red Raiders. They deserve mega props. Scott MANDZIARA going to join us here in a moment. Let me find my Scott MANDZIARA photo. There it is. Scott is always outstanding.
Learn more at treathivetoday.com. This message is sponsored by Gilead Sciences.
Robert Browning, David Robinson had the cannons of the USS Missouri. Pretty much.
Tango there, everybody. Follow after me. And step. And back. And slide. And dip. That's tango.
Yeah, it's probably the heart-shaped Honey Nut Cheerios. He found out they could help lower cholesterol. Now he's having fun taking care of his heart in all sorts of ways.
Let's see those hips move, people.
Hurry and get your heart-shaped Cheerios. They're only here for a limited time.
Sam Tobias updating us. Anthony Del Toro's in 15th. I think that's where I am, right? Fred Robert Cassar is 19. Jason Paniagua and Wes Perkins 33rd. Jeremy 37. Gail 28th. Gail is Jeremy's mom, who is beating Jeremy as we speak. I got ice for my iced tea. That's a beautiful thing. I got Bill Schoening's book on my Kindle. Thank you, Sam, for the update. I am. Well, actually, Sam, it's iced tea at the moment. I emptied my coffee cup. I still have a lot more in the tank. Scott Manziera coming up. Here we go. Woo! Woo, woo. Out of the gate here, I am going to mute for our evil Facebook overlords.
This is the
Mark Zuckerberg. Resistance is futile.
now Chris Duel.
It's just another manic Monday.
It's just another Manic Monday, only this is a Madness Monday as we react to the first 2 rounds of March Madness. We now know who has made it to the Sweet 16. We also know where Carlos Correa will be playing baseball this season and next season at least, and it ain't in Houston. We'll talk about that and more with our very special guest in just a few moments. Scott MANDZIARA, baseball savant, baseball sports broadcaster, huge baseball guy. Love talking baseball. We'll also talk more. We'll talk NCAA tournament with Scott. Chris Duel show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Jeremy Kolok makes the show go. Couple of programming notes before we go to Scott MANDZIARA. Coming up in 1 hour, less than an hour now, Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, not only to react to last night's heart-stopping, last-second Spurs victory at Golden State over the Warriors, but today is the day that Bill Schoening's book drops. In fact, it's already dropped. I've got a Kindle edition from Amazon already this morning. His book, Stories, Sports, and Songs, Tales and Tunes by a Play-by-Play Lifer. We'll talk all about the new book with Bill Schoening. Shannon's Salty Shakedown coming up this hour just after 7:30, along with sports history and sports birthdays, and passes to the Valero Texas Open to be given away to you in the 8 o'clock hour as well. Well, a big baseball development. It took a long time. At least I thought so. I thought it was going to happen days before it did. But over the weekend, we learned that Carlos Correa will not be staying with the Houston Astros. He signs with the Minnesota Twins. Let's react to this and more with baseball guru and baseball savant, Scott MANDZIARA from St. Louis, Missouri. Scott, how are you this morning?
I am doing fantastic, Chris. How are you doing this morning?
I am good, and I guess it could be worse, Scott, if Carlos Correa would have signed with the New York Yankees or the Los Angeles Dodgers. I would have to sports hate him. He would be dead to me. I don't sports hate him as much for going to the Minnesota Twins, but I'm very disappointed. Your take on that choice by Carlos Correa?
Well, I thought it was really surprising that he decided to go to the Twins. I didn't see them as one of his top couple suitors, especially this late and close to spring training. Like you mentioned, Chris, I thought the Yankees were a pretty obvious choice for him to go up there, even if it was going to be a shorter-term deal. But it's the term of the contract that really is really good for Correa, because he signs the 3-year deal with Minnesota, but he can opt out after the first year. He can opt out after the second year. So say the Twins put up a big old egg this year and miss the playoffs, he's getting the heck out of there and going to sign another big contract. But on the other hand, the Twins have had an incredible offseason. They offloaded that Josh Donaldson contract to the Yankees, got a couple of great players in Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. The Twins have used the cap to their advantage, picking up Carlos Correa too. They're definitely a dark horse team to watch now in their division. I thought it was a great move by the Twins, but yeah, I was heartbroken for you and Shannon and all of Texas seeing him sign with the Twins.
So, Scott, now that he is no longer part of that Astros team, when you look at the Astros as a whole, how do they stack up, and who's the guy that you see filling his position there at shortstop?
Oh, man, it's tough. With the Astros losing Correa, they lost Greinke too, obviously. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a different looking Astros team. And I never thought I would say that, because I felt like with Bregman and Correa, and I thought George Springer would stay, you would think, and obviously Jose Altuve, you would have thought that they would have gotten more than just keeping Altuve and Bregman right now. I thought Springer or Correa, you wouldn't be able to keep both, how much money they were going to cost. But I thought at least one of them would be able to stay. And so it was pretty disappointing to see that, the Astros really didn't go after Correa to, offer him a lot more money. But, honestly, the guy that would replace him, Shannon, just to speak to more of your question, Aledmus Diaz was an all-star with the Cardinals a couple of years ago. He really fell off. He fell off the Cardinals roster. You guys have gotten to know him in Houston a lot more. But I think he's a guy that's going to slot in there for the short term. But as far as a long-term option there, they really don't have something, which is why I'm even more surprised that Correa didn't come back. They don't have a long-term shortstop in their system currently.
Yeah, the guy I've heard interviewed a lot by the media in spring training, Jeremy Pena, who, most of what he's done has been in AAA baseball. Jeremy Pena might inherit that position. But given this, we still have Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, Justin Verlander back at pitcher. Do you foresee a major drop-off for the Houston Astros? The Astros, before and since that 2017 World Series championship, always at least knocking on the door. How much trouble do you think the Astros are in by losing Carlos Correa?
Oh, it's a big loss. Unfortunately, it is a pretty massive loss. When you go back-to-back years of losing one of your best players like they did last year with George Springer, now this year with Carlos Correa, it's just hard to fill. When you talk about lineup construction, when you have both of those guys in the lineup, it instantly makes Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, Yuri Gurriel that much better. When you take them out, it makes the lineup much thinner. And a lot of average baseball fans will watch and say, it's one guy. They still got those other guys. But that one guy in that lineup can really make a difference. And in a division like the Astros, it is so important to be able to have a guy like that. You see the Texas Rangers and the moves that they made this offseason, spending a boatload of money, you got to be a little frustrated if you're a Houston fan and not seeing them do it.
Well, Scott, Chris said because he didn't go to the Yankees or the Dodgers, he doesn't have to sports hate Carlos Correa. He can accept that he has moved on to a situation that is better for him, although it hurts him and his Astros. But a lot of people now, with the way the Astros have been treated when they've gone to opposing fields, and even when opposing fans are at Minute Maid Park, there's still a lot being said about that 2017 World Series and the banging on the trash cans and such. How will Carlos Correa, do you think, be viewed now as a Minnesota Twin? Will he still get an earful when he travels with that team? And then what do you think that reception is going to be in Houston when the first time that he returns as a Minnesota Twin?
I'll start with Minnesota and how Correa is going to be viewed. It's done. It's over. He has an entire new life to completely reinvent himself in Minnesota. What he does in Minnesota is going to define how the rest of his career is going to play out. Because if he has a great season, opts out, he could go to another team. If he doesn't have a great season, he stays in Minnesota, still has another chance to, like I said, reinvent himself. Now over to Houston. Again, it's over. Chris has known how passionate I've been about the trash can situation and the sign stealing, all of that stuff. I was passionate about it when I was in Texas on how I could not stand it. Now that you see Springer and Correa gone, I'm past it. I think all of baseball's past it. I think people forget about that stuff. I brought it up before on the airwaves with you last year, Chris. It's kind of like, in my opinion, it's kind of like Tiger Woods. People could not stand Tiger for the things that he did. It took years of moving on, moving past, not forgetting, but forgiving. And I think it's the same situation with the Astros. If they win the division again this year, there's not going to be a single storyline about them cheating anymore. It's all going to be about the Astros. And in that division, with the Oakland A's completely blowing up their team too, I think the only competition they really have in that division is the Mariners and the Angels.
Going to be very, very fascinating as this baseball season begins. right around April 7th. Scott MANDZIARA talking with us in a moment. We'll talk NCAA tournament with Scott MANDZIARA, see how his bracket's doing, see who he has winning it all now that we advance to the Sweet 16. But Scott, as you look at Major League Baseball, as we've had a little bit of spring training and a little bit of spring training baseball, what are some of the storylines you're paying attention to as we get closer and closer to opening day?
Oh man, there's so many storylines to really watch, but honestly, one of them, and it's not that pertinent in the AL, is just because it's the universal DH. It's going to be fascinating to watch how teams utilize this, because there's going to be some teams that use it as a position. They're going to say, okay, insert player, you're our DH. All right, got it. And there's going to be teams that are looking at it more from a metric perspective. They're going to say, okay, left-handed pitcher, you're our DH. Right-handed pitcher, you're our DH. And send it. Like, that is one of the most unique storylines that I'm watching. But then when it comes to a player perspective, there was a lot of moving around this year. I mean, there's going to be players that if you were not paying attention before the lockout and you haven't paid attention after, you're going to be like, wait, that guy really plays for them? Wait, Corey Seager really signed a 10-year deal with the Texas Rangers? Like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that. So there's going to be a lot of adjusting more than most years in terms of fans remembering who is on what team. And there's really only one big guy to sign left, Chris, and it's Michael Conforto. I don't know where the heck he's going to end up. It's one of those situations where you never want to be the last remaining free agent on the block, because you're probably going to end up with a 1-year deal because no one's going to overpay for you.
All right, Scott. So we are heading in to baseball season. Opening day feels like it's just around the corner now. And you, as the baseball savant, I'm sure you've been to a number of ballparks, both big and small. And one of the huge things about baseball games that I don't think a lot of people realize is just how hard they go when it comes to the food that is served. I mean, big, large, they come in fancy cups, this, that, and the other. What's the best thing you've eaten at a ballpark? Or the wildest?
Oh, man, that is such a great question. It's such a great question, Shannon. Let me tell you a little quick story. I was a broadcaster for a minor league team called the Gateway Grizzlies here in Sauget, Illinois. Okay, they had something called a Krispy Kreme burger. So instead of buns, it was Krispy Kreme donut on half of it up top, half of it on the bottom, with a cheeseburger in the middle. That was like, it was like a heart attack in between the buns. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. It was so good. I could not even finish the whole thing, but that always stands alone as the best thing I've ever eaten at a ballpark.
A Krispy Kreme burger. That is the first time I have heard of that. That was a tremendous question from Shannon. Scott MANDZIARA joining us. Scott, I didn't realize this until we texted yesterday to get you on the show this morning. The NCAA tournament, San Antonio is going to host one of the regionals now that we've gone to the Sweet 16, which is going to be very, very cool here in San Antonio. But you, sir, have already been to one of the games. And of course, when we talk storylines, one of the big storylines is Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski, saying farewell after this tournament. You saw Duke's first tournament game in Greenville, South Carolina. Tell us what that experience was like.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy, Chris. So Taylor, my fiance, and my daughter, my 10-week-old daughter, and I drove from St. Louis to Greenville last week to support one of my good friends, as an assistant coach for Cal State Fullerton, who happened to be playing Duke. So we made the 10-hour trip east with the 10-week-old. We got to the game at 5:40. It was a Friday night game. The game is at 7:10. And this is where the story takes like a dark turn, because we're waiting outside at 5:40 for the doors to open. The doors don't open until 6:40 for a 7:10 tip. And there's thousands of people outside. So I didn't even get in the game until it was 17-4 Duke. And I was just thankful that people didn't just start running into the stadium, because there were so many boos. This did not get covered at all by any media outlet. The coaches were confused, because I talked to my good friend after. He's like, nobody was in the building when we were doing intros. It was one of the big missed stories, in my opinion, of the NCAA tournament. It was a terrible hosting job by Greenville. I just wanted to put that out there because it was really frustrating to me. But on the basketball side, it was awesome to see, Coach K advancing to the next round. It was a really good game. The score isn't really indicative of how much fun it was to watch because March Madness is such a good time. But yeah, that was kind of our experience. My daughter's first game. She had some those little pink headphones that we put on her head. Got a cute little picture, but it was a lot of fun.
So you got to experience March Madness in person. Did you fill out a bracket this year, and how was it looking after the first weekend?
Man, Shannon, why you got to bring me down? Yes, I did fill out a bracket. It's not doing well going into the Sweet 16. I did pick Duke to win it all, but I also had them facing Auburn in the finals. So thank goodness I went to bed early last night and did not have to watch Auburn go down to Miami. But outside of that, it's been crazy. How about St. Peter's, guys? That's like the one matchup in the entire bracket that I looked and I'm like, all right, Kentucky, Sharpie, no chance this team's winning. And then there's a team that wins. I feel like it happens every year.
Yeah, I saw somebody tweet, even God didn't have St. Peter go into the Sweet 16. It's such a crazy, crazy story. I find it interesting as we talk with Scott MANDZIARA, you picked Duke to go to win the whole thing. I was flirting with that. I love just storybook endings. That's why I loved Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay and winning that Super Bowl his first year with the Bucs. I loved that David Robinson of the San Antonio Spurs and John Elway of the Denver Broncos were able to win a championship and then ride off into the sunset as champions and future Hall of Famers. I nearly had the guts, Scott, to say Duke's going to win it all. It was my second choice, but I looked in the regional that Duke was in, and I saw Gonzaga there in the West Regional, and I just had a feeling that Duke and Gonzaga are on a collision course, and Gonzaga underperformed last year in the tournament, and I just had a feeling, and I still hope I'm wrong. Even I picked Gonzaga to beat Duke in that regional, and I have Gonzaga winning the national championship game over Arizona. I still kind of hope that I'm wrong. I would love to see Coach K go out as a champion. What makes you think that's going to happen?
I think you painted a perfect picture there, Chris. Just the storybook ending. I also thought Duke was the number 2 best team in the country this year. I mean, they have Paolo Banchero, who is, by the way, one of the lengthiest dudes I have ever seen in my entire life. Oh my gosh, that guy's got a huge wingspan. But, they got him. Wendell Moore is a really, really good guard for Duke that I just think creates a lot of mismatch problems. But Gonzaga, I say Duke's number 2. I say Gonzaga's number 1. But it goes back to, what have you shown in the tournament? And like you said, Gonzaga was a big letdown last year. Their best player is a freshman in Chet Holmgren. And they don't have that traditional, really veteran-like team anymore. That's what Gonzaga used to always be. Leading into the tournament. They're like, all right, Gonzaga, they're the team with a bunch of seniors. They're the veteran group that they're going to be able to put it together in March. And now it's changed because of their quality of play. Back to Duke, I just think that the exact same thing as you, Chris. Sports are so much fun with storybook endings. Either Duke was going to lose to my good friend Coach Ham and Cal State Fullerton in round 1, or they're winning the whole dang thing.
I'm still, even though it would go against my bracket when Duke takes on Gonzaga, if that happens, I will certainly pull for Duke and hope that the storybook ending happens. Finally, Scott, I saw a story, made me think of you because you are such a big LSU fan, and it affects the Dallas Cowboys somewhat. The Dallas Cowboys released their offensive lineman, Lael Collins, and I noticed over the weekend that Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals, to try to lure Lael Collins to sign with the Bengals, which would bolster their offensive line and which was abysmal last year. It's amazing. He was sacked so many times that Joe Burrow was able to lead the Cincinnati Bengals to the Super Bowl. But Joe Burrow had Lael Collins over for dinner to try to lobby him to sign with the Cincinnati Bengals. And you are such a big LSU fan, both of these guys from LSU. So it was a couple of alums getting together, and now they're going to be in the same huddle together and on the field together. Your thoughts on Lael Collins now protecting fellow LSU alum Joe Burrow?
How about that, Chris? How interesting is that? If you're the GM of the Cincinnati Bengals, like Mike Brown, and you already had Joe Burrow say, hey, with that number 5 pick, you need to take Jamar Chase. Like, I know I need help, but I need you to take Jamar Chase. And then he did, and then it worked out with him being the offensive rookie of the year and going to a Super Bowl. If Joe Burrow gets back in Mike Brown's ear and goes, hey, I think we should sign Lyle Collins. He's really good. I'll kind of keep him under control and on some of his off the field issues. How the heck do you not do it? I mean, the guy literally hooked you up so good that you made it to the Super Bowl. I mean, if he's really in Mike Brown's ear and can really have that kind of swing, which I do believe that Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, he does have that kind of swing in a locker room and in an organization. I think that he absolutely said something, and I think Mike Brown absolutely ran with it. I also think it's a really good move for the Bengals, especially if Collins and Burrow have any kind of relationship. I know that they didn't go to LSU at the same time, but it always goes back to your alma mater. If you know somebody, then you just have that connection. I think it's great. I hope the Bengals do good again this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. Scott MANDZIARA is a great follow on Twitter at SMandziara2. Scott, as we get closer to opening day, I'm sure we'll talk more baseball. We may even talk more NCAA basketball if your Duke prediction continues to be legit as we move forward. Thanks for taking the time, Scott. Have a great week. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. You, Shannon, and Jeremy, have a great week. Good talking to you guys always.
Absolutely. Scott MANDZIARA, go follow him on Twitter. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. Crowd goes wild, by the way. Also coming up, sports history and sports birthdays. And at the top of the hour, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, not only commenting and reacting to that amazing last-second Spurs win last night, but Bill's book drops today. Stories, sports, and songs, tales and tunes by a play-by-play lifer. It is available right now on Amazon and wherever you get your books. We'll talk all about Bill's book with Bill coming up just after 8 o'clock, and your chance to win passes to the Valero Texas Open, a 4-pack of passes, I do believe. That's coming up as well. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy Kolok making the show go. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! All right. Good morning, Jerry Lauder. Good morning, O.M. Garcia, Jesse Bratton, Jason Paniagua. Buenos dias, Jason. How am I doing on ice? I may go grab a little more for my iced tea. Do I want to do more coffee? Possibly. Let's see. Let's do that. Woo! I'll be back in a sec.
Jake from State Farm here. Some other car insurance companies are increasing their rates in your state, but don't worry. Your bill's gone up, switch to State Farm for surprisingly great rates. Like your good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or visit statefarm.com for a quote today.
Woo! Shannon's salty shakedown is coming. Yeah, we haven't even talked to Deshaun Watson yet, but we will. Jeremy's taking off. Hopefully he's not walking out. Hopefully he's not just leaving us. Send an email. Don't want to do that. Okay. Woo!
Let's get back to the Chris Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon.
Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Welcome in. Lots going on in the world of sports. Lots to cover. We talked March Madness. We'll talk more March Madness. We talked Carlos Correa to the Minnesota Twins. We haven't talked to Sean Watson yet. We will. the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, the morning after the Spurs get a big, big win on the road at Golden State last night, 110-108. Last-second heart-stopping victory for the Spurs that they needed to keep pace with the New Orleans Pelicans. And now the Los Angeles Lakers. Technically, now the Lakers are in the 10 slot, and the Pelicans are in the 9 slot in the Western Conference, but they have the same record. So they're in a virtual tie, but Pelicans win that tiebreaker. Saw some people messaging me last night how beautiful it would be for the Spurs to knock the Lakers out of the playoffs. That's possible in these final games of the regular season. And Bill will talk about his new book, which drops today on Amazon and wherever you buy your books. Bill Schoening's book, Stories, Sports, and Songs, Tales and Tunes by a Play-by-Play lifer. So we'll talk all about that with Bill Schoening just after the top of the hour. And top of the hour, your chance to win a family 4-pack of tickets. Why do they say family 4-pack? Maybe you don't want to take your family. Maybe you want to take your friends. A 4-pack of tickets to the Valero, Texas Open, which gets underway April 3rd at TPC San Antonio. All right, so there is all of that. In a moment, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. But first, how about some sports birthdays? And this day in sports history. On this day in 1953, there was a game between the Boston Celtics and Syracuse. I forgot the name of Syracuse. They're a defunct franchise. I'd have to look it up. But it was Boston versus Syracuse. There were 106 fouls called in the game. 106 fouls called in that game. 12 players fouled out. Mr. Referee, I think you're a little overzealous with that whistle. Just saying. On this day in 1959, it was the 21st NCAA basketball championship. Cal beat West Virginia 71-70, and your most outstanding player was future Hall of Fame point guard and logo Jerry West. So another case, that would happen in the NBA with the Boston Celtics. Oh, you'll go to the championship, Jerry West. Oh, you'll play great, but you're not going to win, although he did win one in 1972. I got to catch up, Shannon. Episode 3 of Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty, dropped last night. I had to do the Spurs game, so I didn't see it. I'm going to watch that today. On this day in 1961, Art Modell purchases the Cleveland Browns for a then NFL franchise record $3.9 million. $3.9 million for the Cleveland Browns in 1961. Cowboys are worth about $7 billion right now. Finally, on this day in 1994, the great one, Wayne Gretzky, ties Gordie Howe's NHL record of 801 goals. A big deal in the world of hockey. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1937, Tom Flores, NFL quarterback and Super Bowl winning head coach of the Oakland Raiders, just inducted this past summer, finally, and a little late, should have been sooner, into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Tom Flores was born in Fresno, California. Born on this day in 1956, Ingrid Christensen, a Norwegian long-distance athlete. She won the World Championship gold in the 10,000 meter in 1987. Also World Championships in the 5,000 meter. She won the New York City Marathon in 1989 and the Boston Marathon in 1986 and 1989. Ingrid Christensen was born in Trondheim, Norway. And finally, born on this day in 1985, NFL running back, Oklahoma Sooner, mostly with the Minnesota Vikings in the NFL, but also with the Washington football team, Adrian Peterson. Happy birthday, Adrian Peterson. Those are your sports birthdays. That's your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, here it is, your Monday Madness Salty Shakedown.
I know March Madness took over so many headlines from the weekend, but there's plenty more to be discussed. Tennis tournaments going on currently, and Nick Kyrgios, who we've talked about before during COVID, he's been drinking spectators' beers, and he has a lot of interaction between him and those that are there to watch him play. And recently, over the weekend, he was playing one Rafael Nadal. He did not win that match as the Grand Slam title holder was able to defeat him. But what was the bigger story was Nick's interaction with fans in the stands, who I guess were trying to give him some pointers and in an attempt to defeat Mr. Nadal. And spectator and onlooker and person who was not part of the heckling, Mr. One actor Ben Stiller was in attendance, and I guess Nick knew it because then this interaction took place. Here it is.
Are you good at tennis? Exactly, so why are you speaking? If I tell him how to act? No.
Camera then points over to Ben Stiller, but it wasn't Ben who was heckling Nick, the Australian tennis player, to see if he could play better, but he got thrown into that, which later led to a Twitter back and forth between the two. Ben said, hey, great match. Nick asked if they could do a movie together, and Ben said, well, I need some help on my backswing, so maybe we can do that while on set. I like the interaction overall. But a lot of people, especially celebrities, I feel like they go to these and they try to blend in as much as possible. And the next thing you know, you are now part of a viral soundbite because of one Mr. Nick Kyrgios. Chris, your thoughts on this interaction? And if you think it's warranted that Mr. Ben Stiller was dragged into this petty debate between Nick and an onlooker?
I mean, I guess it happens, and I guess it might have been a case of mistaken identity, and probably when Nick looks into the crowd, you probably recognize the face of Ben Stiller, so your eyes probably go, it's like, wow, I know that guy. That's Ben Stiller. Wow, pretty amazing. By the way, Ben Stiller directed a series that is now on Apple TV Plus called Severance, which is weird but very, very good. I've been watching it every week. A new episode drops. So since you bring up Ben Stiller, I will recommend his Apple TV Plus series Severance. Mm-hmm. Those of us who have ever worked, and most of us have worked, can kind of relate to the corporate strangeness of Severance.
Well, and the other thing that's interesting of this, Nick is a great tennis player, but he's still 132nd in the world. So it might be a little easier for some onlookers to say, hey, I could maybe give you some advice. A little for them, it's like, hey, if I just joined tennis, maybe I could be ranked that high. But either way, Nick, again, he lost that round, but could be getting a movie out of it, thanks to Ben Stiller. Keeping it with the athlete and fan interaction, Kevin Durant, who has been fined for this a few times already within this calendar year, as well as back in 2021, was fined $25,000 after the Nets-Mavericks game where the Mavericks won 113-111. Go Mavs. But during the game, a fan on the baseline was telling KD, you got to take this game over. KD quickly turned around and said, you got to shut the bleep up and sit down. Sir, that remark has since cost him $25,000. Now, to me, that doesn't seem, it's not like he turned around, berated him completely, took himself out of the game to do something like that. There's obviously a lot that goes on and a lot that is said from fans in the stands. I know we've seen KD get fined for something like this before. So I'm wondering now, because the previous fine was $15,000, if the NBA is starting to fine him because he has those prior fines against him and times against him. He was even fined earlier in the year, or excuse me, last year, 2021, for saying expletives on Twitter. So his speech is being monitored heavily right now by the NBA, and part of me thinks it's because he is one of the faces, and kids are huge in the NBA, and so they can't have their star players going viral for cursing at fans in the stands. That's really my thought train as to why they may have fined him for this one here, because other than that, it doesn't seem like that was a $25,000 comment.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I've got mixed emotions. I'm shocked, though, and I did not know what you just told us, that he was fined for cursing on Twitter. That's a little weird, and I think that's a little much. And in this case, Shannon, what you describe doesn't, I don't think it doesn't warrant Kevin turning around and telling him to shut the blank up and sit down. But you never know if this fan previous to that was like heckling him extensively and much more viciously. And you don't know if like other fans in that vicinity, we just talked about Ben Stiller and heckling and just happening to sit there. You don't know if other fans, and we don't know if other fans around this fan have been yelling awful things at Kevin Durant. There's a part of me that thinks if you're going to poke the bear, if you're going to yell something at an NBA player or any player, be prepared to have them throw it right back at you. So I don't know that I'm down with the NBA fining players like this yet. Also, as you describe, if you're looking at marketing and the bottom line and the fact that your kids and the future generation of kids are your customers and are the future fans who are going to spend money in the NBA, then maybe you do curtail it a little bit. But I don't know. It scares me a little bit as we move into maybe some free speech issues here.
Yeah, imagine if the NBA just fined every player anytime they said a curse word on the court. That I don't know that any of them would have any money left. I don't think it'd be worth it for them to play basketball. Finally, today, as we know, last week, one Tom Brady came out of retirement, and a huge story that took over was a gentleman who just purchased Tom Brady's quote-unquote final touchdown ball for over $500,000. That has now been reevaluated for just $50,000 as its actual value, since it won't be considered Tom's final touchdown ball. Now, if we recall, during the season, Tom Brady threw his 600th touchdown pass, and a fan got that ball. To get the ball back, I believe he gave the fan some tickets, but he also gave him some Bitcoin from the company that he's worked with. We've seen the commercials from Tom Brady. So Tom Brady feels bad for this guy who paid that much money for what he thought was the final touchdown ball of Tom Brady's career. It's clearly Tom's fault here that he decided to come back after that purchase. I mean, it's like he waited for this guy to spend that much money on purpose. But Tom isn't directly offering Bitcoin cryptocurrency to this fan. Instead, Tom tweeted to the FTX cryptocurrency exchange and asked that they donate to a charity of the choosing of the buyer of this ball, that they donate some cryptocurrency. So the guy who owns the ball doesn't get anything, but he may be able to do something good out of it. What do you think about this idea, and why can't Brady do that himself? I mean, it is his touchdown ball.
That's it. It's a great question. And I would almost, and again, this could be significant money for a charity, but I almost would think Brady would do something more for this guy. And I'm a Brady fan, as you know, but I think he also needs to do something for the guy. It would be nice. He doesn't have to, obviously, but it would be nice if he did something for this guy. But I still think this ball becomes noteworthy because of the notoriety surrounding it now. And even though it was devalued from 500 and something thousand down to $50,000, I think in the long run, this is going to be a cool ball to have. The ball that would have been, that everybody thought for 40 days was Tom Brady's last touchdown ball. I think it still becomes a special ball in sports history.
Yeah, you hold on to it long enough, it may double in the value that you originally paid for it. There it is, today's Salty Shakedown.
Outstanding Salty Shakedown, as it always is. Ben Stiller getting into it with a tennis player. Tom Brady somewhat hooking up the guy who bought his last TD ball, and Kevin Durant getting a little vulgar on the sideline with a fan. Shannon, coming up, Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, on the morning that his book drops, and everybody can grab a copy. I did that already. Something we haven't gotten to yet, and we'll talk more about it in the 8 o'clock hour. After we went off the air on Friday and later on Friday, and we talked that something could be coming down that day, Deshaun Watson became a Cleveland Brown, kind of doing an about face and shocking the world, and the Cleveland Browns give up a lot of draft picks to the Houston Texans. We had heard that Deshaun Watson had narrowed it down to either the New Orleans Saints or the Atlanta Falcons, and he does a complete about face, and he is now a Cleveland Brown. Bit of a shocker. I know we've had a few days to process this, but Shannon, how do you feel about this move by Deshaun Watson, and how do you feel about this move for the Cleveland Browns?
It's still a little jarring, right? Because we were talking about how that was just no longer going to be part of the conversation, right? That the conversation around the Browns would be, okay, well, Baker still asked for a trade, so who would be their quarterback? But now Baker is still on the roster, and now Deshaun Watson is also on the roster after that about face. You wonder what it was that had the Cleveland Browns say, you know what, I know we were told we were out of this race, but let me make one more offer and see what we can do. And just what it was that convinced Deshaun to go to the Browns versus any of the other teams that seemed to be in the market. I felt like going to the Saints would have been a great opportunity for him. He probably would have had some Houston Texans fans that just shifted over, right? Just based on geography there. And their, potential to become a playoff team, I think was already pretty, they felt like a team that's a quarterback away. Whereas Cleveland, although they have greater pieces and they've been doing a great job in free agency elsewhere, they are in that same league as the Bengals and as the Ravens and as the Steelers, who obviously just lost Big Ben. But again, they're, no one's completely thinking that they're going to be out of it. So I feel like he went to a tougher division, and for a team and an organization that still doesn't, I think, know what their true identity is, and that could ultimately be their downfall when the regular season starts.
And, the Browns send all those draft picks to the Houston Texans. I'm hearing some people say, it's the biggest haul since the Herschel Walker trade, where the Cowboys got all those draft picks for Herschel Walker from the Minnesota Vikings. What if the civil suits go south for Deshaun Watson? Then the NFL is going to have to step in and, put a penalty down and suspend Deshaun Watson. We'll get into that more as we roll forward. Coming up, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. His book has dropped. We'll talk about the book. We'll talk about the Spurs and more with Bill Schoening next. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. James Allen. My goodness, James, we've been following you on Facebook. Just your amazing trip to India with your daughter. Can't wait to hear all about it later in the week when we get you on the show. Very, very cool. Foamfoot 420, a.k.a. Amber, is in here. Taro Kotani just ordered his book on Amazon. Yeah, Taro, I got it on Kindle. I had pre-ordered it, and it showed up on my Kindle this morning, which is very cool. I got the cover of it here. I'm back. I'm going back. There's the cover on the Kindle. I got a little black and white Kindle because I can't afford the big old highfalutin Kindle. But the full color cover of the book looks like that. So we're going to have Bill on next. Let me lose that banner so you can see the book better. Woo!
Or sing along with your favorite female artists with iHeartRadio Steeler Hear Her playlist. Escape and stream on into your Xfinity voice remote.
Yeah, we're going to actually hear an audio clip of the book read by Bill, which is going to be cool. Speaking of Spurs, I am wearing my Manu Ginobili blocks James Harden to win a playoff game t-shirt today. Woo. Yeah, Amber. Lakers now in the 10 slot. Spurs 2.5 back. So certainly the Spurs are now with a chance to catch the Lakers, which would be amazing. Spurs with 10 games left. And they are 2.5 back of the Lakers and the Pelicans. If possible, that Keldon Johnson audio right before we go to Bill, if you could go, in fact, you can skip Manic Monday and just leave the music underneath and play, go down a little bit with the volume, but play the Keldon Johnson audio. After they say now Chris Duel and then there's still the music, play the Keldon Johnson audio there, and that'll be a good lead into Bill. Thanks, man. There's my Kindle. Yeah, Amber, Pop, I'm sure you probably saw the wink as he's yelling at the ref and getting thrown out, and he turns and you can see him wink to somebody. That was very cool. That was one of the cooler videos that I saw. Very cool, Louisa. I'll try to read those, your comment and Taro's comment to Bill here coming up on the segment. Here we go. Woo! Woo! There it is. I'm going to mute for a sec for our evil Facebook overlords.
This is the Chris Duel Show. You know the day is stars the night divine the day. Tried to run. Now, Chris Duel.
Taking his time. The veteran from Austria on the way. No, on the back of the rim. Rebound. Johnson. Follow. Good. Keldon Johnson with the offensive rebound and a putback with 0.3 of a second left. The Spurs take a 2-point lead. It is 110-108. Keldon Johnson with a huge play. Timeout, Steve Kerr. Only 0.3 of a second left.
What a play by Keldon Johnson. What a call by Bill Schoening as the San Antonio Spurs win last night in heart-stopping fashion on the road at the Chase Center in San Francisco. They beat the Golden State Warriors 110-108. That was Bill Schoening doing what he does best and now doing something else that he does very well, writing about what he does best and his entire life and career. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, and we are so excited to talk to the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, this morning, because this morning is the morning that his book is published and available at Amazon.com and wherever you buy your books. At Amazon right now, you can get the Kindle edition, you can get the paperback edition. There will be an audio edition soon. The book is titled Stories, Sports, and Songs, Tales and Tunes by a Play-by-Play Lifer, and the author of that book is joining us right now. Bill Schoening, good morning and congratulations on the birth of the book.
Chris, I really appreciate it. I think you might be actually more excited about the book than I am.
That could be.
I appreciate your enthusiasm. It was a late night for all of us last night, so I don't know how you do it with this energy. That's pretty cool stuff. Good for you.
Well, and I got to ask you, Bill, I mean, as we find out in the book, and I'm learning more things about you reading the book, which is great. You've had so many life experiences, and now you add published author to that. As you wake up this morning, it's a big day. I mean, what does it feel like this morning? I mean, we've talked about this. You knew this was coming. This has been more than 2 years in the making to finally get to publication day. What is that like?
It's kind of crazy, because I've already gotten all these congratulatory notes from a bunch of people that have already ordered the book. So I appreciate that, but the amazing thing is just to try to share some of these stories, because I've had a really pretty cool ride, not just in the last 21 years with the Spurs, but all the years leading up to that. And growing up in inner city Philly, being a sports fan in a sports crazy town like that. And then the opportunities I've had along the way in small market radio. Some of the stories, Chris, I know you've read a lot of the book, but they're about some of the things that happen in small towns and small market radio in Texas. And you can't make these up. These are true stories, whether it's about technical problems or about, there's a sheriff out in West Texas that called me a Yankee. And I didn't quite understand what I said, I'm not a Yankee fan. I'm a Phillies fan. He said, no, I mean, you're from north of the Mason-Dixon line, boy. You're a Yankee. And that's the first time I'd ever been called a Yankee. So I tried to explain to him that my family had come over from Germany in the 1800s, like 1882, 1883. And I said, that was after the Civil War. My family had nothing to do with the Civil War. It didn't bother him at all. It's like, no, that war didn't end for all of us. So anyway, just little stories like that along the way, people you meet and things that happen, technical issues on radio stations. And it's been a fun journey. So I wanted to share some of those stories.
So many stories in this book, and as Chris said, he's learning more about you as he reads it. Is there any story that you can give us a little hint about that maybe you're exceptionally excited for people to learn about you or know as part of your journey?
Well, I think part of it is that I've been pretty lucky and along the way, because this is a very competitive business. And one of the things I've tried to do, Shannon, is just try to be positive and treat people right along the way. They always say, the people you meet on the way up are the people you're going to meet on the way down. But I tried not to burn any bridges. I tried to make sure that no matter what happened in my career, I try to stay on the positive side of folks. Some folks just don't want to be positive, so there's not much you can do with them. But I mean, just like there's a couple relationships that ended, but I made sure that I reached back out and to my friends that for whatever reason those relationships ended. I extended my hand, and the friendship started back up again. So I wanted to make sure that, there was a little bit of a message in the book because, while I was writing the book, all these things happened that were dividing the country. And Chris, the same way. I'm all about, unifying and bringing people together and trying to find a commonality among all of us instead of looking at the differences. So that's one of the themes of the book too. Not that it's an overriding theme. It's just things that happened during the course of my life that was the proper way to go. That was the proper tack. And I just feel like, that's kind of a theme throughout the book, but I don't know if there's a specific story about that necessarily. But I just wanted people to be, together instead of, fighting and trying to find differences among each other.
Yeah, and that is one of the cool virtues, I think, of this book. So many of these stories are fascinating, and a lot of times they're just fun, and it's a great read. We're talking with the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. His book has just dropped on Amazon and wherever you buy your books. It's called Stories, Sports, and Songs, Tales and Tunes by a Play-by-Play Lifer. And I got to wonder, Bill, as I look at the book, from beginning to end, and, I look at, and as I mentioned to you last night, I've read a lot of the book, and I will finish it here now that and it's on my Kindle. What's so cool, Bill, I had pre-ordered it. And then this morning I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning. I thought, well, it's publication day. I wonder if it dropped on my Kindle. And I go to my Amazon Kindle and boom, there it is. It was there on my Kindle, which was cool. But as I look at it, Bill, it's pretty much in chronological order. I mean, so we start with, a nuns and Catholic school in Philly. And, we go through, your radio career. We got, some fascinating things happen on death row in Huntsville that we can get into. And then, eventually Texas Longhorns, and then eventually San Antonio Spurs, your trips around the world, your trips to, where you had a family member buried, after the D-Day invasion. As you put this together, I mean, it is really your life story. I mean, those of us who are old enough will remember the Ralph Edwards "This Is Your Life" TV show, where they would surprise somebody and talk, bring people back from their life's journey. Was it interesting or unusual, or what was the feeling to go revisit your life in this way? I got to believe it just brought back a lot of memories that maybe you didn't have until you actively went to resurrect these memories.
Yeah, when I first started the book, and of course, this all started when the pandemic hit, when we had no more games to call. I even had a backup plan to do some Texas State University college baseball, and then they ended the college baseball season, I think, 1 year after the NBA ended, or 1 day after the NBA closed. So here I was with all this bound up energy, and I guess the only place to put it was on the computer, because I'd always thought about, Chris, writing a story or writing a book about my stories, and I was going to wait until I retired. But now I had all this time on my hands, so I said, well, I might as well do it now. So, and of course, I'm closer to the end than the beginning. But it's kind of surreal, and it reminds me a lot of my relationships through the years, all these different people that I worked with, and coaches that I knew and interviewed, and players, and it's not just sports, as you mentioned. There's some other things in there as well, but certainly it's centered around the whole thing with athletics, and going way back and trying to remember those things about my early childhood. Like there's a story called "Because This Is History." It's the first story in the book, and it's about the day that I was with my mom up on Elmwood Avenue in Southwest Philly shopping, and we got the news while we were in the store. I was 5 years old on that November of 1963. I think you know where I'm going. When John F. Kennedy got shot, and I remember that because it was one of the first memories of my life, and how upset my mom got. Because, my mom was Irish Catholic, and John Kennedy was a hero to her, and he had served in World War II. And she was just very, very upset. And the cartoons didn't come on that day because of the coverage of the assassination. And as a 5-year-old kid, you don't quite understand all that. But I do remember the impact that had on my family.
Bill, now that you have a book, and given your broadcasting expertise and years out in the field, I feel like you're just one step away from becoming a professor, right? I mean, every professor loves to assign their own book as essential reading to a class. Have you ever considered maybe adding that to your resume, or have you already done a guest stint at some broadcast schools?
Oh, definitely. I've never considered being a professor. First of all, you'd have to have a degree. And I did the shortcut. I didn't like the university. I attended Temple University. That story's the book. So I transferred to a broadcasting school. So to be a professor, I think you'd have to have a degree. But I didn't feel like I had time for a degree. I wanted to get out in the field. I was ready. I was 20 years old when I started after I graduated from broadcasting school. But to answer your question, Shannon, yes, I've spoken to many groups, high school, colleges. Texas State has me down on a regular basis to talk to their broadcasting students because they have a pretty good program there. My son Carl went through that program. So I always try to make sure that I take time to talk to young broadcasters who are just getting in the field, because I was there once as well. And I remember when I was, I guess, at Sam Houston State in 1985, the great Ron Franklin from ESPN at the time was the voice of the Texas Longhorns, and he spoke to an AP convention that I attended. And I just remember thinking, man, this guy, he's really got it together. He's really good. And he takes the time to mentor younger people. And I wanted to do that as well. So if anybody comes to me with advice or needing advice, seeking it, I try to have provided the best I can anyway, because, the business is constantly changing, and it's good to have all this fresh blood coming into the field.
He's the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. His book drops today on Amazon and elsewhere. It's called Stories, Sports, and Songs, Tales and Tunes by a Play-by-Play Lifer. And Bill, we've talked with you about this, and I love that you're doing this as well. I'm a huge, I have a subscription to Audible, I'm a big audiobook guy. I like to not only read the book, but I also like to hear the book read by the author. I always get a better understanding of the stories of the books when the author reads from them. And while today, the Kindle edition is available on Amazon, the paperback edition is available on Amazon and elsewhere, but you've got an audiobook in the works as well. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we're in the process of recording it right now. And Red Penguin, my publisher, has never done this before where they include songs in the audiobook. So because I've written a bunch of songs, I included 13 of them. I think I've written about 26 or 27 now, but I included about half of them because I didn't want the entire audiobook to be about the music, but the stories behind the songs, obviously. And then, I'm starting to read these stories and get more comfortable with it. And so it's a process. They wanted to release the audiobook about a month or so after the paperback. So it looks like around May 1st, probably, for the audiobook. So I'm in the process right now of recording the stories and kind of lining up the songs with them.
So, Bill, we understand we've gotten a hold of one of your audio stories, which will kind of give people a sense, A, of the book with this story, and B, this is kind of a taste of what will come down when the audio book is available. This is a chapter from the book, chapter 89, called Ego Deflation. Let's listen to this, and Shannon and Jeremy will get Bill's comments on the other side of this. Bill Schoening, an audio excerpt of his brand new book.
Ego Deflation. I'll never forget how excited I was when I found out I would be receiving a 2003 NBA championship ring. I had covered some teams that won a district or a conference title, but never a national championship of any kind. Here I was in just my second year in the Spurs organization, and I'm already getting sized up for a ring. Although I thought the Spurs had a bright future with some good young talent, I never dared dream that the Spurs would win 3 more championships with me at the radio microphone. As I accumulated rings, I passed them down. The 03 ring now belongs to my older son, Eric. The 05 ring is my younger son, Carl's. And my wife, Jerry, got the 07 ring. I will likely never give up the 14 ring because it reminds me of my favorite season ever. On occasion, I'll wear that 14 ring. It's just a tad over the top as far as bling is concerned, but I used to wear it from time to time to show it off, and now I enjoy seeing the reaction of folks when I allow them to hold it or wear it. One night during the playoffs in 2017, I was wearing the ring while sitting by myself at a hotel bar in Houston. I was sipping a glass of dry Riesling and watching a playoff game when an attractive woman who looked to be in her mid-40s approached me and asked me if I was wearing a Super Bowl ring. When I informed her it was an NBA championship ring, she became even more curious. She asked if she could wear the ring and take a selfie with it. I said, okay. She handed the ring back, and I put it back on my hand. Then she noticed the gold band on my left hand. Oh, you're married? She asked. When I said yes, she responded, well, that's disappointing. I said, it is? She then finished the sentence, because I think you'd be perfect for my mom. Wow, so much for an ego boost. I then asked this lady how old her mom was. She said, oh, she's about your age. She's 64. Since I was only 58 at the time, I let her know that she was guilty of a punch below the belt. She actually felt bad about it and insisted on buying me a glass of wine before she returned to her friends. I allowed her to do so. After all, she should have known that I was too young and too married for her mom. Although I suffered a momentary ego deflation, I did get a nice glass of German white wine and a story out of this encounter, and that was fine with me.
Bill Schoening with some ego deflation. That was a tremendous story, Bill. And you get a glass of wine out of that, and it winds up in your book. How cool was that?
Yeah, it's so funny. For years, whenever something happened, we would always say, well, there's a story for the book, not really thinking there would actually be a story in the book or a book per se. The other ego deflation story in the book, it was kind of an addendum late in the book as I was just trying to finish my editing. I was doing some baseball. There's a little Catholic university up in Austin called St. Edward's, and I was doing their baseball in the spring of 2021. And right before the game against Lubbock Christian, you remember that game, Chris, because I think you lost some money on that game. Just kidding. The PA announcer says, and the game today will be broadcast on a Lone Star Conference digital network with the legendary Bill Schoening. I said, oh, legendary. Oh, that's pretty cool. A lady about 5 feet to my left said, Bill who? Bill who? She's laying like she's got her hands up in the air. I said, I have no idea who he's talking about. I have no idea. So anytime we think that we're all that, we find right after that we're not. So, don't allow yourself to get too filled up with yourself, because somebody will bring you right back down to earth.
Bill Schoening with us. His book drops today. Bill, and I'm just, there's a really fun chapter in there. And when I first saw the title of the chapter, it said Ditka's autograph. And my first thought was, whoa, this is going to be fun. Because, Bill Schoening meets so many big-time people. I said, this is going to be a fun chapter. I'm going to read about when Bill met Mike Ditka and gets his autograph. That isn't exactly the way it happened. Talk to me about the chapter called Ditka's autograph.
Well, I was doing the Texas Rangers as a backup guy in the 90s. So I got to do about 18 Texas Rangers baseball games. They flew me all over the country. I was doing Longhorns on Saturday for football, and then traveling to wherever the Rangers were on Sunday. I'll try to make the story shorter, but I had a long layover in Vegas, so I took advantage of it and went to the Strip for a couple hours. Well, as soon as I got to Bally's, I was, right off the shuttle bus. This guy who had been way overserved, he comes up and he goes, "Hey, Coach Ditka, can I have your autograph?" Did you say Coach Ditka? I said, "Yeah, sure." And he crumbled a crumpled piece of paper out of his pocket, hands it to me. He had a pen. And so I started to sign the autograph as Mike Ditka. I'm left-handed. He goes, "Oh, Coach, you're left-handed?" Yeah, I'm left-handed. So what's your name, sir? He says, "I'm Joe. This is so cool. This is great." To Joe, best wishes, Mike Ditka. So I signed the autograph for him. I gave it to him, and he was just thrilled, and then he was on his way probably to the next bar. And so I know the next day, Joe woke up with a bad hangover and a fake autograph of Mike Ditka.
That is beautiful. I never knew you signed as Mike Ditka before. And finally, Bill, I just want to mention, you have mentioned this with us as well, but I really, given your Huntsville experience, you've talked before about your work with the Kairos Prison Ministry. In fact, the San Antonio Spurs Sports and Entertainment just made a donation to that wonderful charity when you did your 2000th consecutive broadcast just a number of days ago. But you also talk about, your experience covering executions on death row, your experience encountering people on death row. And I got to believe when you do your work with the prison ministry, because you've had that perspective to just see how dark it can go for a prisoner, I think it probably gives you even another level of empathy for these guys who are incarcerated in there.
Yeah, and of course, at the time, I wasn't quite aware of the fact that I was going to be going into death row to interview guys. And there's a story in there about Henry Lee Lucas. Now, those of you that follow news are familiar with Henry Lee Lucas. He was a serial killer, and I got a chance to do a one-on-one with him. And he insisted on, before he would do a one-on-one, he wanted a pack of Pall Malls and an orange soda. So I had to, through the prison, buy him an orange soda and a pack of Pall Malls. It cost me $1.50. Anyway, I sat down with him, and he had weak eye. And I've always been trained, Chris, like you have, to watch or look somebody straight in the eye when you interview them. I wasn't sure what eye to look at. I wasn't sure which was the good one, So he had one kind of wandering off there. But his interview was just meandering. He would quote scripture and then talk about killing his grandmother. I mean, he was just all over the place, And I got back to the station, and AP in Dallas was desperate. It was a slow news day. I said, "Well, I got this interview with Henry Lee Lucas. It's kind of all over the place." They said, "Well, send us a little package. Try to come up with something." So I got very creative and wrote several stories around these audio clips from Henry Lee Lucas. And I got a check in the mail from AP about 2 weeks later for $50 for those stories. So after spending $1.50 on soda and cigarettes for this guy, I cleared $48.50 for that story.
That is amazing.
They never did execute Henry Lee Lucas. He died in prison of natural causes at the age of 64. And then I recently watched a documentary on him on Netflix, which was kind of strange, to see Henry Lee Lucas again after all these years.
My goodness. And that is a notorious name among serial killers. To go from Henry Lee Lucas to the Iceman, George Gervin, to Boban Marjanovic, it is all in there. I can't recommend it highly enough. It is full of surprises. It is a great read. It is entertaining. It is poignant. Bill Schoening's brand new book, Stories, Sports, and Songs, Tales and Tunes by a Play-by-Play Lifer. Best way, at least for me, go to Amazon.com. That's where I got my Kindle copy this morning. You can order the paperback copy. The audio version is coming soon. Bill, we're so happy for you. By the way, we're getting from Japan this morning. Taro Kotani just wrote us, I just ordered my copy of Bill's book on Amazon. So you get a sale in Tokyo this morning. Luisa Alani says, congratulations to Bill. I'll be buying one today. Great day, Bill. We're so excited. I'm loving the book. I know other people will as well. On a very busy day after you were up late last night calling the Spurs win over Golden State. Thanks so much for taking the time and joining us this morning.
Well, you were up pretty late too last night, Chris. You had to get in earlier than I did today. Thanks again for all the publicity on this, Chris. I really appreciate it. It's been a fun ride, and apologize to Taro for me that this has not yet been translated into Japanese. I didn't know enough Japanese to write it in Japanese, so it's going to have to be in English at least for now.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be translated into 28 languages within the next.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Within the next couple of years. Bill, congratulations. Have a great day, and best of luck with the book. I look forward to seeing this journey for you. This is going to be great.
Thank you, Chris. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Absolutely. The voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. He mentions Wednesday. That's the Spurs' next game against the Portland Trailblazers at Portland on Wednesday night. As we roll forward, we will talk all things March Madness, NFL, Major League Baseball, and more. We'll take a look at the Sports Wire, see what big sports stories are breaking, and we'll get you caught up on everything you need to know. More with Shannon, Salty Sweeney, Jeremy Kolok, who was also up late running that Spurs broadcast last night for the Spurs radio network. He's running this one this morning with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Shannon, you're going to get Shannon a Texas Tech hat there. Clint Proctor. I don't know if she'll wear it. I'll wear a Texas Tech hat. I want the Texas teams to advance. All right. I'm going to get one more hit of ice for my iced tea. And I'll be back. That. We'll grab that. Back in a sec.
Did you know that in 2018, Black Americans represented 14% of all people living with HIV? There's no cure for HIV, but there are effective treatments that are taken as prescribed. It helps you live healthy with HIV and get to and stay undetected. It means the amount of virus is so low that you can make our last year. Remember HIV and on treatment. Talk to your doctor about treatment options. Learn more at treathivtoday.com. It's sponsored by Gilead Sciences.
They're role models, they're fighters. They give us something to believe in, and they do it all with grace and grit. They are women, and with our Women's History Month collection on Xfinity Flex, we're all about hyping them up. Get fierce with boss women in shows like Killing Eve, The Gilded Age, and more. Feel empowered by stories that spark your in free sumo movies like RBG, Memoirs of a Black Girl, and more. Or sing along with your favorite female artists with iHeartRadio's See Her, Hear Her playlist. Just say Women's History Month into your Xfinity voice remote.
Thank you, Chris. It was actually iced tea time. Still in the caffeine family. Thank you very much. Dave Emilio, go Hook 'em Horns baseball and Lady Horns in basketball, and go Spurs go. We'll probably talk about the Longhorns women's basketball team. Ice. Thank you, Anthony. Ice as in the Iceman George Gervin. Jorge High School soccer playoffs start this week. Go Fox Tech. My nephew is the goalie. Amen to that. Go Fox Tech.
back to the Chris Duel Show.
Getting such a great win and moving on to the second round. They will play this coming Friday. I'm not exactly sure. I don't have the bracket in front of me, but they're making my bracket look really great, Chris, as I do have them to go all the way, that Texas women's team. So congrats, and I'm sure all eyes will be on that team now that the men have been knocked out of the tournament.
Very, very cool. Go Texas women. We'll watch that very, very closely. Meanwhile, in the NBA, we talked about the Spurs and their big win last night over the Golden State Warriors, 110-108. But LeBron James, who, say what you will about the Lakers, and a lot of people are dogging the Lakers, and they should, and the Lakers have now fallen into the 10 slot, and the Spurs, with 10 games to play, are 2.5 games behind the Lakers and the New Orleans Pelicans. Pelicans and Lakers have identical records, but as they sort out the tiebreaker currently, that would go to the New Orleans Pelicans. But LeBron James continues to have a big, big season. He's putting up big, big numbers, even though the Lakers are losing more games than anybody really expected. And LeBron James had a milestone over the weekend as well.
Yeah, last week we talked about how he crossed that 10,000 assist threshold, and he congratulated himself for that. Lakers didn't win the game. At this point, it seems like he's all about a stat stuffing season, and he continues to stuff stats as far as points are concerned, and has now made it to the second spot in the all-time scoring list, passing up Karl Malone. It is only now Kareem Abdul-Jabbar who sits ahead of him.
My goodness. So he is in a pretty darn good stratosphere now, LeBron James. It's going to be interesting, this offseason. I mean, even if the Lakers make the playoffs, I don't think any of us really expect them to go very far. the way they've been playing. I don't think they're going to be able to flip a switch and do something spectacular. Going to be really interesting to see what happens in that offseason with the Lakers. And one of the things some people are suggesting, and it sounds, ludicrous on a certain level, Lakers have the opportunity or have the rights to trade LeBron James if they wanted to. I mean, if they don't think things are going well with the line, I don't think that would ever happen, but it is conceivable. If Jeannie Buss, who we are seeing portrayed in the new HBO and HBO Max, a Winning Time drama, if Jeannie Buss and the Lakers decided to move off of LeBron, they could trade him. It'll be interesting to see. I think more likely there's going to be other moves this year, but what a quick fall from NBA champions in that bubble just about a year and a half ago to maybe missing the playoffs this year.
Yeah, it really is something. And, I guess it goes to show, your dream team maybe is best served in your dreams, because it felt like you get all of these big names together. How could they not be a dominant force out in the West and be, shoo-ins for a playoff? And yet, last year they fight for a spot to make the top 10 in the West, to get into that play-in playoff game, and then ultimately fall to the Phoenix Suns, who just a few short years ago would kind of be a joke if they even made it into the playoffs. And yet they are still on the rise with Devin Booker and Chris Paul. And Chris Paul, obviously a name that was considered to join that Lakers squad. I'm sure he's happy with where he ultimately ended up. And who knows, you mentioned, would they ever trade LeBron? What if he's the problem? When you're sitting around and you're pointing blame to everybody, what's the one common denominator? You. Okay, so maybe it is LeBron's fault that the Lakers are where they are right now.
Who knows? He is putting up good numbers, though. So something else I do want to mention this, because he was so prolific in his reporting, and he was just such a big part of broadcasting and covering the National Football League. Shannon, we learn over the weekend that John Clayton, who spent time as an NFL writer and a longtime reporter for the Four Letter Network, was also a senior writer at ESPN.com. John Clayton passed away over the weekend at the age of 67. He passed away from a brief but unspecified illness. Apparently, he had family gathered around him when he passed away over the weekend, but certainly, Shannon, a lot of colleagues in journalism and NBA reporters and broadcasters certainly sad for and grieving over the loss of John Clayton over the weekend.
Certainly. I just saying his name, I wouldn't have recognized him seeing the news, but his picture's everywhere. And I think, just where we are with media these days, people like us are, seen more. It used to be, oh, you're on the radio. That I would have never thought that face would match that voice. But, you and I are constantly on video each and every day. Journalists that appear constantly on the Four Letter Network. I mean, we're starting to view them in different ways than we had before. It used to just be pen and paper. And now, thanks to social media, it's, you form, I think, a deeper connection because of it.
John Clayton had a great commercial. Jeremy, I don't know if you remember it. And so John Clayton, looked like he was known as the professor. He looked like a librarian. He was kind of balding, wore like wire rim glasses, and he would report on the NFL, and he knew his stuff. So there was this ESPN commercial. They're talking to John Clayton, and he's on TV reporting. And then so the TV hit ends, and he is sitting there in his shorts, like so many are now in the era of Zoom. But this was pre-Zoom. He rips off his suit and his tie, and underneath, was it a Metallica t-shirt? I think it was a Metallica t-shirt.
Yeah.
It was some kind of a metal band.
Or Jason Peniagua is saying Slayer.
Okay, Slayer. That's even better. And he had like this long ponytail, and he's in his mom's basement, and he jumps into his bed. It was just very, very funny. And totally against type for that commercial. If you get a chance, go Google or YouTube the Slayer commercial thing. In my mind, it was Metallica, but Jason Paniagua reminding us it was Slayer. Shannon, if you get a chance, go look at that today. One of the best TV commercials. And ESPN made so many of those funny commercials back in the day. This was one of the best ones they did.
Yeah, that one was certainly floating around on the Twitterverse over the weekend.
Finally, Shannon and Jeremy, it's going to be a rainy day, and everybody, if you're in Central or South Texas or anywhere in Texas, keep an eye on the weather. We're hearing there could be hail. We're hearing even tornado possibilities in some places in South and Central Texas. Watch out for that today. So on a rainy day, Shannon, I've got an episode of Winning Time, Rise of the Lakers Dynasty to catch up on today. Did you episode 3 dropped last night on HBO and HBO Max. Did you get a look at it last night?
I did not. The TV I did watch was basketball, so I will tune in probably first thing when I get home after the show today. That's what I'll do. I'll sit down and I'll watch that and take some notes and probably have more questions for you come tomorrow morning.
I look forward to that. That's going to be probably the highlight of my day. Is since it's raining, I was going to go to the pool today or something. I had no idea till yesterday. I thought I didn't know. I thought it's been 80. Spring is here. It'll be 80 and sunny. I'll go to the pool. No, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So Netflix, or in this case HBO Max. Jeremy, have you looked at Winning Time yet? The Lakers drama. Have you taken a look at that?
It's funny. I was actually thinking this morning that I was like, I could do some catching up today on Winning Time, and now it sounds like all of us might be doing that today.
So we might have a round table tomorrow. We might analyze Winning Time, which is a good idea.
Dan Patrick doesn't spoil it for me.
Yeah, that's true.
A few hours.
Dan Patrick's been doing some spoilers. So, well, Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, outstanding as always. I know as a hardcore Texas alum and Longhorn fan, you are licking your wounds after the Longhorn men lost to Purdue last night in the NCAA tournament, but whole lot more sports going on, including the Texas women, and you could win that bracket outright. So, plus you can still win you had the Houston Cougars.
That's right.
So you're the best prognosticator among us. So congratulations.
I feel okay going into the Sweet 16. Y'all have a nice and dry day. Hopefully.
Yeah. Everybody be careful. Keep an eye on the weather. Jeremy, you get some sleep, man.
Yeah, I will. A good day to read Bill Schoening's book.
Yes.
I've ever seen
I
one.
got it on the Kindle. I'm going to read Bill's book, and I'm going to watch Winning Time on HBO Max. Thanks so much to the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. Go buy his book. Support the new author. His book, Stories, Sports, and Songs, Tales and Tunes by a Play-by-Play Lifer, by Bill Schoening, available on Amazon. We will see you in 21 hours. Have yourself a safe Monday. Stay dry. Adios, amigos. There you go. Pablo, I was commenting. Yeah, Sean Salisbury said he was heartbroken over the passing of John Clayton. All right, everybody. Weather could be funky out there today. Be very, very aware of the weather. Be very, very safe out there. Thanks for joining us. We'll do this again in 21 hours. Until then, have a great Monday. See you tomorrow.